Gorgeous friends on the internet, how you are doing? Welcome back to another amazing tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to show you a simple technique that you use in building any type of custom navigation bar without depending on any external package. All right. So this is going to be a technique that you're going to appreciate. Let's say, for instance, your designer gave you design to build a bottom navigation bar that looks like so complex. You don't need to be scared after this video. Okay. I'm going to show you how you can tackle situations like that, and also how you can just get it done without external packages. It's still fine to use external packages, but if you want to build it yourself, then it will not be so difficult after this video. So I got this design from Dribbble, and it's going to be where we are going to replicate this bottom navigation bar. It looks pretty not too complex, but using this technique, you will see that this bottom navigation bar has some cool animations, and when you switch between pages, it's giving you that smooth transition. All right, so we're going to be able to achieve this by the end of this video. All right, so let's quickly jump into it. I already have my project created. Everything is set. You can see I just have my main.dat, and currently we only have a provider, right? Because I like using provider just to manage my state. Okay, so we need that. It doesn't matter the state management package that you're using. You can use set state, you can use block, you can use Qubit, whatever, right? Riverpod, whatever one that just suits your project. Okay, you're fine to use it, so you don't have to depend on provider. Okay, so the reason why I'm using provider is just to get the index. For bottom navigation bar, you need the current index, right? So you'll be able to show the right screens, the right pages to the user, and also show different colors, right? Cool. So now let's go back to our app. I'm going to save this. And also one other thing I want to show you is an easier way to tackle stuffs like this. Let's say, for instance, you're using feature first, which is what I'm going to be using. So let's assume you have, looking at this UI now, you will see that there are 5 screens here. We have the search, right, where you show the map view. We have the messaging for conversations. We have the home, which is this view you can see here. We have favorites, okay, and we have profile. 5 screens. But looking at this bottom navigation bar is not sitting on any of these screens. It's standalone. That means it's more like sitting on the parent screen. So that parent screen is housing all these screens once you switch. All right. So to tackle something like that, I usually go with bottom navigation. I usually go with main activity, right? Because I'm coming from the native background, so you know main activity. All right. So let's come here and say I create a source directory. So this is more like where I'm going to have all my features. Okay. So first, let's say we have our main activity, right? So inside this main activity, I create a screen. So this screen, basically, you can just call it screens. It's a folder. So what it does is that it holds this parent screen, right? Where we have our bottom navigation bar. Okay. Most times you might even have a global search bar that shows here. So it's always good you have it inside the parent UI, the parent screen. Then moving on, we have our providers, right? Because I told you I'm going to be managing the state by changing the index, right? And also I'm going to have widgets, because this is a custom navigation bar, right? That means we need to create it in a separate widget outside the screen, right? So inside here, let me just create provider.dat, okay? Where we're going to have a class. Let's call this bottom navigation, or let's just call it parent screen, or parent provider, right? So, and then we extend change notifier. All right, so this is pretty much that, and now we are going to move on to the screen. So inside here, I'm just going to have my main activity screen, right? So inside this main activity, what I'm just going to have is simple, right? We have a stateful widget rather. We call this main activity screen. So inside here, let's just return a scaffold because it's very much necessary. Okay, then quickly I'm going to rush back to the main.dat and replace this with the main activity screen, save it, and now we have the scaffold widget. Okay, so remember we are using provider, right? So I think I need to modify this a little bit because provider, we need to register it in the main.dat before doing anything. So we have to create a multi provider. I like using multi provider because most times I might be required to use multiple, like more than one providers. Okay, so I don't know why this is not obeying what I'm doing. Multi provider. Okay, I'm pretty much sure this is correct, where we have providers and then we have our child. So I do not know why this is not working, but I'm going to investigate after this. All right, so provider is supposed to be imported because we already have it inside here. Okay, so I don't know why that is happening. Let me quickly check if we need to import this. All right, so let's manually import this guy. Import, we're going to call this package provider .dat. All right, so I just manually did that. So we have our change notifier provider, and here we have our context. So I'm just trying to register the parent provider that we just created, right? All right, so register it, and that's pretty much it for the main.dat. We don't need to do anything here again, so we are free to close it. All right, so now back to where the main thing is, which is the main activity. So inside here, I'm not going to be using bottom navigation bar because, you know, when it comes to creating bottom navigation bar like this, or when a Flutter developer sees something like this, the first thing that comes to mind is bottom navigation bar. Yes, you are right, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to use bottom navigation bar, right? When you're talking about custom navigation bar, you can use bottom navigation bar, which is pretty much cool. You can use online packages, but I want to show you an easier way that you don't need to, like, you know, do much work. Okay, and for this I'm going to be using the floating action button. All right, so we're going to be using floating action button, and inside here we are not going to use the normal floating action button, so we're just going to use our custom made widgets. All right, so inside here I'm going to create the custom navigation bar. All right, so what I'm going to do inside this custom navigation bar is just like, I'm going to use a stateless widget because we are already using provider, so there's no point making it stateful. Okay, because all the logics and they are going to be handled inside the provider that we created, this provider here. All right, okay, so I just said let me increase the font size a little bit. All right, so inside here we have to change this guy to something else. Let's call this custom bottom navigation bar. Okay, and real quick I'm going to just change this. Looking at this design, we have a container, right? And the container has a color which is a little bit dark. Okay, so it's a little bit transparent. I already have the color code, right? So I'm just going to replace it while I'm doing it, and I'm going to give it a default height, right? I'm just trying to like analyze what needs to be done here, and as you can see it has a radius, so 50 would be enough. And then we can add some margin, we can add some padding around it, right? Then we can now add the role. The role is going to have all these children, okay? And then we can now work on other things that are required. But first of all, let's build out the container, and then I'm going to create the nav items. All right, so inside here I'm going to create a container, and where we have a height, give it a default height or fixed height of 60, and I'm going to create a decoration. Let's say boss decoration, and we have these two. We're going to create a color for it. Let's say 0SFF 2B, yeah, 2B. Okay, and then we have border radius. So I will say border radius dot circular because I want it to affect every part of the container. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we can now put our padding. Remember I said that we're going to add padding agent set dot, we are going to use symmetric for this because the padding is going to affect vertical and horizontal, and they are both going to have different sizes. So I'm going to have vertical to be 10, horizontal to be 20. All right, and then next we are going to create a margin. So feel free to duplicate this, create a margin, and you can just have vertical to be 10 and horizontal 50. So in case you're wondering what vertical and horizontal does, is vertical represents the up and down, right? Horizontal represents this side and also this side. So adding a margin of 50 is going to affect this region, right? It's going to give them that spaces. So feel free to save it. I'm going to click on this custom navigation bar now and go back to our main.dat and quickly put it here. All right, and yeah, that is it. So now you can see how it's looking. You just have that stuff that just popped up. Okay, so we have this shape looking pretty here, but as you can see, this thing is not centralized. Okay, because what we need to do is to use the floating action button location, and we can say floating action button location dot center docked. So you can use anyone. Okay, but I think, let me see what docked does. You can see, but let's just use center float because we want it to always be at the top. Okay, let it just float above every other widget. Cool. You can see how this side and this side has the same size. So we are going to quickly move to this guy. Let's go to our provider. Okay, because now what I want to create now, it's more like it to have, I need to create the inside the nav item. I need to create the index, like a setter and a getter, to get the index of the various screens, and also to have nav items. Because looking at this, though we cannot get the correct icons, but I'm just going to use Flutter default icons. Okay, we have the search, message, home. So depending on what you're building, you can change the icon to whatever you want. All right, so let's go to this provider. So inside here, first I told you I'm going to create index, right? We can just call it nav index. So initially, looking at this design, in Flutter you don't count from 1, right? You count from 0. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see here, when you open this app for the first time, based on what I'm seeing, the home is the default and it has an index of 2, right? So what we are going to do here, we're going to set the default index to be 2. Then here I'm going to set a getter. Let's just call this a nav index. Okay, and feel free to just assign it to that private variable. So we have a setter here, so we can just call this set nav item, and we have to call let's just assign it to this variable, this private variable, and we can say value and then just call notify listener. That is it for the getter and the setter, right? So the next thing now we need to do is to get the items, right? So in most cases you might want to add label, but in this case there is no label, right? So just plain icons. So assuming you want to add labels, you can use list.map, right? When you have something like this, nav items, I'm just showing you. So you can have something like this, let's say title or label, you can say home. Then you can now put the icon. Maybe you can just use something like icons.search or home, whatever you want. Okay, just something pretty like this. Okay, but we are not going to work with title for this because of how the UI is. So what I'm going to do is to create an icon data. All right, and here I'm going to have the first one is the search, second one is the chart. The third one is the home. We have favorite and we have person, like profile. So I'm going to quickly grab those things and you have them here. Okay, and mind you, remember before we started this video, I said that if you want this source code, let me know in the comment section. I have this code base, everything implemented. You can see the animation just as it is here. When you open the screen, you can see how the animation is. can see how it's counting this reading stuff, right? That I want it, I'm going to drop the link right in the description, or I'm going to drop it once you just show interest. Okay, cool. So moving on now to our bottom navigation bar, I'm going to wrap this guy with a consumer widget. Okay, don't mind me, I like using Stream Builder because it just gives me this stuff already. So I'll just call this nav and child. Okay, so that's it. And now what I'm going to do now is to create inside here. Remember I told you that this is a row. Oh, let's go back to the static one. This is a row with the various icons. So right here I'm going to have a child, right? Then inside that child I have my role widget, and inside the role widget I can just have a main axis alignment which happens to be space between. Okay, so there I can just create my children, and let's just use list dot generate. Okay, then the length is going to be the nav items, right? Because we already created the items, which is 5. Okay, once we do that, feel free to first let's grab the icon by calling nav item dot index. Okay, and second we are going to return a gesture detector because these icons need to be tapped, right, for actions to occur. Okay, so we have on tapped. So when user tapped on it, what we are just calling is this guy, set nav item, and then we are going to pass this index, okay, to it. But let's leave that one for now. Let's proceed to the next sections. And what I'm going to do now is to add a child. Yeah, let's just say child. We have icon, and inside here we have the icon to be passed, which is this icon that we just extracted. And then I have color, so the color is going to be white, colors.white, because looking at this you can see all the icons, even the ones that are selected and the ones that are not selected, are all white. Okay, so it's white, and you can just give it a size of, let's say, 22. All right, let's save it. Now you can see how it's looking. We are slowly achieving this guy. All right, so if you are working with any bottom navigation bar that is custom, you can just figure out a way to create the widgets, right, and maybe put some docking, make some stuff come up here, whatever way you want to do it, right? But this method is going to give you an idea, right? It's going to give you an idea how to use it without bottom navigation bar. Okay, right? All right, so the next thing we are going to do here is to, because looking at this, we have, if you look closely, you will notice that there is a dark colored cycle UI, something like that. Okay, so now that we have achieved these 5 items, okay, the next thing is to look at the UI. Looking at this UI, you will notice that there's a cycle, like a dark cycled widget, right, around the icon. All right, so we're going to do that, and to achieve that, I think I'll be using a container. So just I'm going to wrap this with a container widget, right? So inside this container widget, I need to add a decoration to it because I don't want to use cycle avatar here. Because you can still use cycle avatar to achieve a cycle widget, right? So, but I want to make use of this, so I'm going to be using boss shape.cycle, right? And then I'll add a color. So the color, it's not really dark, it's more like, so let's get this, let's say 32220. Okay, so in case you're wondering how I'm getting this color, I normally use, there's this color picker extension that I use. So if you click on it, you'll be able to pick the actual color that you want. All right, so this is not really giving me the color, but you can just pick the color, right? It's going to, let's just click here, 23221F. So let's try that. We're going to use 23221F. Okay, and save it, right? Look closely, you will see that the icon is there, but it's not this icon is bigger than it, so that's why it's not really showing very well. So what I'm going to do now is to add some padding around it. Okay, so let's go here quickly, and I'm going to add padding. So let's have agent set dot all. Okay, so I'm going to give this 8. Okay, save it. You can see how it shrunk the icon, and you can see the icon is a little bit visible. Okay, so but this is not close to what we have in the UI, because this UI, you can see when it's selected, is showing this amber. I don't know if it's amber or yellow or orange. Yeah, I think orange color. So we have this orange, and when you tap, it just keeps changing. Okay, so that's pretty much what we are going to do then before we call this a wrap. And if you notice also in this video here, there's a nice smooth transition when you move between the bottom nav items. Okay, you can see that transition very smooth, right? So we are going to achieve that as well. So what we are going to do here now is to, let's come here, and we need to know when this items is selected, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a state.nav, let's say nav dot set nav index equals to this index, right? Because we already have this guy here to set the index and then call notify listener. So we're going to save it. Currently, if I tap, nothing is happening. Okay, so we are going to come here, and we have decoration, we have the color. So I'm not going to work with this color anymore, but first thing, I need to know the item that was selected. So I'm going to have a bool variable here that we'll call is selected. All right, so inside here I'm going to call state dot what am I using? State nav dot let's call this nav item if is equal to index. Okay, nav index, sorry. If it's equal to index, that means it's selected. All right, so inside here I'm going to do something. I'll just check if it's selected. Okay, if it's selected, let's quickly grab this color, but I'm going to duplicate this for now. So we're going to say if is selected, this is a constant, so it won't work. So I need to remove that. Selected, we're going to return the orange color, right? But I don't know, so I'm going to use the color picker also to get this color. So let's move down here. So just click on pick and tap on it. 5A9E11. All right. We have 5A9E11. All right. Gets 5A9E11. FA, sorry. Oh, oops. All right. I'm going to save that. You can see now the selected item have a different color, and when we tap, but right now the transition is not really smooth because we already have what we need. Okay, so I think this one is a little bit big, right, than others. So I think I need to modify this guy a little bit. So inside the padding, I can just come here and say is selected. Okay, I'm going to make it 10 and this one 8. Okay, all right, just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now we have something cool to work with. All right, so we are pretty much at the end of this, but the next thing I want to do is to add an animation so you can move smoothly. So to achieve that, I'm going to switch from container to animated container. All right, so the animated container requires a duration, and I think I'm going to be using seconds for this. Just use 1 second, just make things simple so that it will be visible, right? Then curve, depending on what you want, you can use any curve that you want, right? Ease in out, let's use ease in out, any one that you want. So if you see, if I tap on it, you can see how the selection is. You can see how the transition is smooth, just giving us that cool, feel. That cool feel. So in case you're wondering how to change the screen, it's pretty much easy. So let's assume now you have maybe other screens, like you have settings, Okay, let me just use the file directly. I don't want to create any. Let's just say we have settings.dat. Okay, so we have another one, home.dat. We have another one which is, okay, I'm just going to put all in one file, okay, because I just want to make things easier. Okay, so let's say we have the first screen, which is a stateful widget, and this is going to be search screen, right? And we have a placeholder here. Let's just use a test widget, or let's just use a scaffold widget, and we can use a child, I think body rather. Let's use center test. Let's just say search, right? So what I'm going to do is just to increment these guys. So I have like this. First one is going to be think message. All right, so as you can see here, we have the search, message, home, favorites, profile. This is not a good practice. I will not advise you to have all your screens in one folder or in one file. So make sure you separate them. All right, make sure you separate them. All right. So I'm going to go now to the main activity. Okay, so inside here we are done with anything concerning the custom bottom nav, right? So I'm going to come here and just create let's call this nav body, right? And the first one is going to be search screen. All right, so all right, so we have 5 screens which is representing these icons that we have here. So inside here I'm going to have the body. So one thing I need to do is to wrap this scaffold, because it's the parent widget. We need to have access to the nav index. Okay, so I'm going to use the consumer here as well, and we'll call this parent provider. And inside here we have the state, or let's just call it nav child. Okay, so inside here I think this const is not needed. So what I'm going to do is to have nav, we're going to have nav body, which is navigation body, right? And then I will have the nav index. Okay, so we're going to save that. You can see search is presenting the search. You can see home, message, and all that. Okay, so remember here, previously we actually made the nav items to be 2. So if I try to do a hot restart here, you will see now the index has changed to 2 because it's the default index. So guys, this is pretty much it, and you can see how smooth it is. Using this technique, you will be able to like build any kind of custom bottom navigation bar. So just go out there, you know, practice, look for other designs, and try to replicate it. Okay, and remember also, I'm still bringing it out here. If you want this this code base, this code, right, with the whole logic, the code for the bottom nav and every other thing, just let me know in the comment section below. Okay, so I'm going to drop it so you guys can go and use it and learn. And also, I created in that code, I actually created a map, and I gave the map a default styling. Okay, so it was cool, and I changed it to black. You know, normally Google Map is not black, it's having a different color. Okay, so by default, so I just changed it. I gave it a style to black. So feel free, let me know what you think about this, and if you think there's something I missed, let me know also in the comment section. If you think there's something I need to improve on, let me know in the comment section. And please do not forget to subscribe and like this video, okay, so that we can, the YouTube algorithm can recommend it to as many people as possible, right? Like it, share with your friends, and subscribe. Okay, let's get this channel up. Let's make this channel grow. Okay, more exciting videos is coming up next. And also, if you want any video, if you want me to do any video, let me know also in the comment section below. Okay, I'm ready for you guys this period. Okay, all right guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'm so much excited that you watched to this part of the video. All right, so see you in the next video, right? Till then, stay safe. All right.